up, y'all? It's your girl Roxy with Roxy Says, and we're gonna talk about it. So today we are reviewing Love is Blind Season 5, The Reunion, okay? I'll start off by saying this. Nick and Vanessa, they did a little bit better. They did better, but the bar was already very low. Like, let's be clear. But I'm gonna give them their props. They did ask some good follow-up questions. However, a lot was still left on the table, but you know, we gonna get into it. And another thing, reunions should be mandatory. Mandatory. I cannot imagine watching a season of Housewives of Atlanta, Housewives of Potomac, Housewives of Miami, and someone just decide not to show up. Excuse me? Especially when that person caused so much havoc throughout the season. In this reunion, I feel like some people were let off the hook easily. I feel like the hosts were explaining things for people that they should have been explaining themselves, but we gonna get into all of it. But before we do, don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell because we got more content coming, okay? So as the episode opens up, we learn that Milton and Lydia are still happily married, okay? They look really cute together still. Milton is letting everyone know that he doesn't work all night anymore. Now he rushes home to his wife. He said Pokemon Go could wait, okay? He got a wife at home now, period. We also learned that Milton's mom and Lydia are now super duper close. They go out for lunch together. They be gossiping about Milton together. And Milton says that Lydia's presence has also made the family a bit softer. So that's definitely a good thing. Lydia says that even though Baby Sir does pick up his towels a bit more often now, she still finds herself cleaning up after him. And I'm like, remember his sister said that is not gonna change. Lydia, you're gonna have to nip that in the bud because if you two do have children, you're gonna be cleaning up after your baby and cleaning up after Baby Sir. You're gonna be exhausted. No ma'am, okay? But they show a really cute montage of the couple over the past year and a half. We see that they had another really cute ceremony in Puerto Rico, and they just look like they've been really happy and enjoying married life. So it looks like so far everything is good, but I have to say this, you know, I always gotta give my opinion. I think the reason why I'm still not 100% sold on Lydia and Milton, despite how cute they were during this entire reunion, it's for a number of reasons. I just feel like Lydia would have left here with anyone. She would have left here with Uche. She would have left here with Nick, okay? But she was leaving here with somebody. And I feel like on Milton's end, he wants to just do grown man things, right? He wants to get married. That's the next step in his story. And I feel like he also wants that respect as a grown man, as a husband from his family as well. And in addition to that, because of the tea that I heard about Milton, okay, I'll link the video below, but according to Storytimewithrikki, you know on TikTok, she has all of the tea about the entire Love is Blind cast. Apparently, Milton was still with his ex when he came on the show. She didn't find out that they were broken up until she got word that he was on the show. But in addition to that, Milton was still in contact with his ex-girlfriend all throughout the process and even during him and Lydia's engagement, to the point where allegedly Lydia had to call homegirl up and tell her like, hey, he's with me now. Y'all not gonna be speaking anymore. I'll link the full video below for y'all, but if this is true, it is very messy. It's very messy. And then in addition to that, the things that we're gonna discuss about Lydia, yeah, I can't help but to give this couple the side eye. Again, I do hope that their bond has grown into true love and that they are genuinely as happy and as in love as they appear to be. And all we can do is wish them the best. So congratulations to them. They've been together for what, a year and a half? So yay. So they start talking about long-term planning and I'm like, Vanessa, you better not ask anybody if they're about to have a baby. You better not. And clearly she's been reading the comments because she didn't. Good job, Vanessa. But Milton says that he's great at long-term planning. He says they've been looking at their 401ks. I'm like, period, poo. And Vanessa takes that and she says, speaking of financial planning, and she turns over to Stacy and Izzy. I'm like, girl, you turning over there. You should have said, speaking of lack of financial planning, but we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. But they play Stacy and Izzy's wedding scene. You know, the wedding where Stacy said no, cause you don't got no job. If you saw my last video, you already know the entire song. So after the clip plays, they ask Stacy why she said no, and Stacy immediately gets very emotional and she says that she really wanted to say yes to Izzy. She just couldn't at that time. She needed more time, you know, everything that she said on the day of the wedding. And shout out to Nick, because I'm very happy that he made the statement that finances are important when you're getting married. Yeah, love is important, but that money is important too. Let's be real. We're adults, right? It's important. And I'm happy that Nick said it and not Vanessa, so that y'all could go ahead and call Nick a materialistic gold digger for thinking that finances are important in a marriage. Like, yeah, they are, okay? And Nick asks Izzy, why didn't he bring up his finances? Why didn't he bring up his credit? Nick says, I'm sure that you had plenty of opportunities to have that conversation. Izzy says the same thing that he's been saying. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I wasn't trying to hide it. I wasn't trying to lie. And he has the nerve to say, everyone else in the pods knew. And Stacy's like, yeah, but I didn't. The woman who you were going to marry didn't know. You told everyone else. So clearly Izzy and Stacy discussed finances in the pods, right? And he later confirms that, but it's evident that they did discuss finances, and that's how he knew to hide his credit situation from Stacy. And when they did, Izzy was probably intimidated by Stacy's financial situation, and that's why he decided not to tell the entire truth about his. So for him to say they didn't have that conversation in the pods, all they discussed was finances and debt. Yeah, exactly. That would have been the perfect opportunity to bring that up. Y'all already know how I feel about Izzy in this situation, because all he's gonna do is say, oh, I didn't think it was important. I didn't think it was important. And he knew it was important. He's lying. Moving on. Then they ask Stacy and Izzy what happened after the wedding. And I'm like, yes, get into Izzy about them comments that he made about Stacy after she rejected him at the altar. I want to see what he has to say about that. Oh, that's not what y'all talking about? Y'all not going to ask Izzy about those comments? No? Oh, I told y'all they did a little bit better, but they missed some important things, right? I would have loved to hear Izzy's response to that. And I would have also liked to know how Stacy felt hearing Izzy make those comments about her being 33 and unmarried and this, that, and the third. I would have liked to know how she felt, because remember last season when Micah and Paul broke up at the altar, right? And Paul made those comments about not being able to see Micah as a mother. They discussed that at the reunion. They brought that back up. So I was hoping that they would do the same thing this season, but they didn't. Side note, we're about to learn that Stacy and Izzy are both in relationships with other people. So it really made the touchy-feeliness between the two very strange. Like Izzy was doing a lot of touching on her legs. She was allowing it. They were very close. Did y'all peep that? So anyways, we learned that after the wedding, they didn't speak for a week. Izzy said that it was very hard for him because he didn't know their relationship status. And then after they met up at her place, they spoke about it, but Izzy felt that the vibe was off. So he asked her like, hey, do you even want to do this anymore? And Stacy was like, no, like Stacy wasn't feeling it anymore. Now here's where I gotta have smoke for both Izzy and Stacy, okay? I'm gonna start with Stacy. Looking back, I don't think that Stacy was genuine after the wedding when she said that she wanted to start things over. She wanted to start from scratch and she needed more time. I think that she already knew that she did not want to be with Izzy, and that was her way to let him down easy. I honestly don't think that Stacy had intentions on continuing that relationship. And in my opinion, she's well within her right to not want to continue that relationship. But I think it would have been better if she was just straight up and was like, no, it's a no, you know? And as for Izzy, he wasn't really feeling the idea of starting over either, because remember, even when she did say it, even though I think that it was a load of BS, when she said it, Izzy was saying, you know, if I'm the right person, the time should be now. In my opinion, Izzy had no interest in dating from scratch. He's like, wait, hold up. I gotta like date you like from the beginning, and I gotta pay for these dates myself. Kinetic and Netflix won't be paying for them. I gotta do that airplane ride with my own money, and we can't go Dutch. Yeah, nah, I'm good. Like, she has a certain expectation when it comes to dating that Izzy is just not gonna be able to fulfill. Let's keep it real, okay? But to be completely fair and honest, at the same time, I do not blame Izzy for not wanting to start over after being left at the altar. I couldn't fault anyone for going through something like that and saying that they want absolutely nothing to do with their ex. So I get it. But we find out that they didn't speak for an entire year after that, and we gonna get back to them because in this scene, Johnny and Chris come out. Now, I had already told y'all in a previous video that Chris and Johnny were no longer together, all right? So that was no surprise to me, but I didn't expect it to be this messy. So apparently, on Johnny's birthday weekend, Chris went out of town to a wedding and she never seen him again. And then she found out 2 weeks later that he was with somebody else. Christopher, no, you didn't. We were all rooting for you, Chris. We had your back and you want to turn around and be a F-boy? So Chris never broke things off with Johnny, and she had to find out from someone else that he was with someone else. But I will say this, Chris did warn us, and I didn't believe him. We get Chris and he says that people look at him like he's a playboy, and I don't really get playboy from Chris. I'm like, are you sure? Okay, we'll see. Chris told us exactly who he was on day one, and we were like,
no, you're not. You're a nice guy.
We were wrong. And to make matters worse, even though Chris apologizes, his tone is so unapologetic, right? He's like, I wouldn't do anything differently. Me and her live together. We're in love. I'm so happy. And I know it probably hurts for you to hear this, Johnny. He kind of has this it is what it is tone to it. And it's really sad to hear. Vanessa asked him if he would cheat on someone who he loves because that's what he did with Johnny. And he says, apparently, yes. And Johnny actually said that she felt that it was her fault and she did apologize to Chris. And I'm like, oh, Johnny, why are you apologizing to Chris? He's the one who did you wrong. You know what I mean? But I will say this, even though Chris didn't say this, part of me feels like Chris didn't get over being Johnny's second choice. And part of me feels like he thinks he gets a pass, like in the way that he handled that situation. That kind of matter-of-fact tone is coming from the fact that Johnny picked him second. I feel like that's why he went about it as disrespectfully as he did, when he could have just told Johnny straight up before he went to the wedding. And the blogs are saying that the girl that he's with now, he knew from before this experience. He knew before he went on Love is Blind. And those questions were never asked, so we don't really know. But Johnny does say that all is well. She's been in a relationship for about a year, so good for her. I hope that's going well. Next, we get into this Johnny and Stacy beef. This beef is so petty to me, but let's get into it. So Stacy was upset with Johnny for the things that she was saying about her, and we did see Johnny talking mad smack about Stacy in the pods. We all saw it, okay? So while Stacy was discussing what she was upset about, we see Chris and Johnny having their own side conversation. Now, when I was watching the show, I'm like, what are they talking about? No one was speaking like that during your segment. That's pretty rude, right? And I also felt that Johnny was talking about Stacy, but the Reality Ashley did post a video where the volume was raised and there were captions to let us know what Johnny and Chris were speaking about. And it was them pretty much making amends, apologizing to each other about the situation that they were just previously discussing. So when Vanessa says, hey, I hear you guys talking, is there something that you want to share? Johnny says, no, not really. I agree with some things that Stacy said, and I disagree with some things that Stacy said. But Johnny says that even though she was saying things in the pods about Stacy, all that she was trying to convey was that Stacy and Izzy were not compatible. Now, Johnny, Stacy did post on her Instagram about some things that you were saying about her, and they weren't nice, right? Johnny was saying that if Izzy picked Stacy, he was going to be disappointed at the reveal because Stacy wasn't hot. Johnny was saying that Stacy wasn't memorable, but Johnny was talking smack about Stacy, right? Then they get into the discussion about what happened at the barbecue and who was being the aggressor, who was antagonizing who. So they play the clip of what happened at the barbecue, and we do see Johnny coming over in the conversation between Stacy, Izzy, and Chris. And Stacy didn't say anything, and Johnny did come over and say, hey, they're lying. I mentioned this in my last video as well. But I feel like the reason why Johnny came over there with that energy is because just 10 minutes ago, Stacy was asking her what's wrong with her face, right? But after they play the clip, Izzy immediately apologizes. He says that he apologizes for his delivery. It was horrible. That's not who he really is. And I'm like, so who was it, Izzy? Who was it? I honestly believe that had they asked him about his comments that he made after the wedding, he would have given that exact same response. That wasn't me. That's not my character. But Izzy makes it clear that he's not apologizing for what he said, just the way that he said it. Johnny tells Izzy that she accepts his apology. She also says that Izzy has apologized multiple times, and we're going to get into that. So you fully think that she's a sketchy person and all of the things you said, but later we going to find out that y'all was making out of... Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me slow down, okay? At the end of the day, when it comes to Stacy and Johnny, they both do the same mean girl type things to me. They remind me of Micah and Irina. The only difference is that they're on opposing teams. But I feel like they've both done and said things to each other that were out of line and unnecessary. But I will say, given their tone and body language at the reunion, Johnny seemed to be more over it, but Stacy was clearly still bothered about the situation, and I think we're about to find out why. Now, didn't I tell y'all in my last review that Izzy was attracted to Johnny? I told y'all that Izzy is attracted to Johnny, and the reason why he loves railing into her so much is because that's how he was covering up his attraction to her when he was in front of Stacy. So to find out that those two hooked up was no surprise to me. So it turns out that a week or less after him and Stacy finally called it quits, him and Johnny ran into each other at an event that all of the cast was at, and they ended up in his Jeep making out, okay? And they also tried to see if anything else could come about from their relationship, but they both decided that they were just not the ones for each other. It was too soon for Izzy because he just broke up with Stacy, and it was too soon for Johnny because Izzy just cursed her out not too long ago, right? Izzy didn't tell Stacy this. She actually found out from other friends, and Izzy says that he was going through a tough time. His dad did pass away about a month after the wedding, so definitely sending condolences to Izzy. But he did say that him and Stacy met up a year later. They had a really cordial conversation. They cleared everything up, and now they're good friends. They talk to each other about their relationships, and I'm like, okay. Then they got into this story about them each being at the same cooking class with their booze. And I'm like, why are we talking about this? We got more pressing matters to discuss. But at the end of this story, they said that they kissed. And I'm like, wait, when did y'all kiss? When you guys were at the cooking event with your booze? Did y'all sneak outside and kiss? But of course, we didn't get any follow-up questions regarding that either. So I guess we'll never know. Anyway, so next they introduced Aaliyah, and baby, my boo Aaliyah came out looking like a goddess, period. Face on fleek, hair on fleek. She looked amazing, okay? And as she was coming out, baby, Lydia looked bothered, okay? And I'm gonna be straight up, this entire scene pissed me off because I feel like they really let Lydia off the hook. So they play back the pod scenes of Lydia and Aaliyah's friendship. And when I tell you watching this scene made me cringe, knowing what we know now, because Aaliyah was being very genuine, very vulnerable, crying her heart out to this girl. Now, we don't know exactly when Lydia found out that Uche was Aaliyah's #1 prospect, but we did still see Aaliyah crying to Lydia when Lydia had full knowledge of who Aaliyah was speaking about, right? Lydia starts by saying that she didn't read the room correctly. She was just trying to be honest. That's what she does with all her friends. And then Vanessa jumps in and she says, oh, you probably felt like a pressure cooker. And once it started to come out, you just wanted to get it all out. Girl, no. Aaliyah said that she didn't want to hear all of that information. Now, I wish that Aaliyah was more stern in her boundaries, right? You should only have to say something once. But with someone like Lydia, I really wish that Aaliyah was more stern with her and said, hey, sis, I told you I don't want to hear anything else. Stop talking about it, okay? And I don't believe for a second that Lydia just couldn't help herself, because when the producers told her not to speak about her and Uche, she knew how to shut up then, right? She wanted Aaliyah to know every single detail about their relationship. She wanted Aaliyah to feel uncomfortable in whatever type of relationship that she had with Uche. That I 100% believe. Lydia's giving these rehearsed answers. She did the best she could with the information that she had. She was in a tough spot, and I'm not saying that's not true, but I feel like Lydia was very calculated in growing close to Aaliyah. And I wish that Nick and Vanessa asked Lydia, why did you latch on to Aaliyah? When did you find out about Aaliyah and Uche's relationship? They should have asked Lydia those questions. And I feel like the reason why they let Lydia slide is because her and Milton are the only married couple of this season. So they want to paint them in this like, oh, this season was successful type of light, and they don't want to villainize Lydia. But that question should have been asked, period. Aaliyah is clearly upset, and rightfully so, because she says that she was robbed of her Love is Blind experience and her boundaries were not respected. And yes, we know that Aaliyah dodged a huge bullet because she ended up not being with Uche, but that doesn't change the fact that her experience was tainted by both Lydia and Uche. In addition to that, we find out that Aaliyah and a lot of the other cast members didn't have a problem with Uche and Lydia staying during this season. Now, in hindsight, I think that they should have sent both of them home, or at least one of them home. I think that that's what they should have done after they found out. But Aaliyah does put Lydia's feet to the fire, and she mentions a conversation that they had out of the pods where Lydia said that her and Uche did discuss coming to this show. See, and that's why Uche was supposed to be here. What I wanted to see was Lydia and Uche in the same room being asked these questions at the same time. But Aaliyah tells Lydia that she needs to be honest about the situation and about what happened. So Lydia says that her and Uche had a conversation about the show. She said it was like a 2-minute conversation in November 2021 where they just said, oh, they're casting for this show Love is Blind, right? And that was it. But I don't believe that, because as we know, her and Uche were messing around in January. So you want us to believe that y'all only had this one conversation about it? Now, here's the thing. I listened to the Misunderstood podcast where they interviewed Uche. I think I listened to it like 2 days ago. And in this interview, Uche said that a couple of years ago, someone had reached out to him to join Married at First Sight, but he turned it down because he didn't like the concept of that show. And then he was later contacted for this show, and he felt that it was a good opportunity. That's why he took it. Sidebar. Why the hell have y'all been hounding Uche to get on one of these shows? Are you, what? But on this podcast, Uche continues to say that Lydia had been stalking his Instagram. She was stalking his followers, and she noticed when he was following a new person who was a casting director for Love is Blind. She then followed the casting director. She blocked Uche, and that's how Lydia knew that he would be there. What? And it would have been great if Uche was there to prove all of this, because this is a story, right? We have no proof of it. But even if I believe that, and let's say I do, right? Because given how Lydia acts, it's not impossible, which is what I've said before. I also have to believe, because that's the only way that it can make sense to me, is that production also knew before this entire season started. Because let's say Lydia did follow Uche on this show. What are the odds that Uche would have gotten casted on this show, right? And then out of all of the applications, out of all of the people who casting reaches out to in the DMs, that Lydia also got picked? That's one hell of a coincidence. And that's why I'm like, did they conspire together? Did Uche get casted first? And he said, hey, I have this crazy ex. It will make for a good storyline. Or did Uche have no idea and Lydia contacted casting and said, hey, I have an ex who I think is going to be casted on the show. I think it would be good TV if I'm also there. Like, I just don't see how the both of them could have been here on the same season without some help from production. To me, it's just too big of a coincidence. I don't know, y'all. But Nick and Vanessa, why didn't y'all play that tape back?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a sign or if it's...
Is this a sign? Do you want to start in zero?
Why didn't y'all play that tape back so we could see the conversation? Because that's huge. But then we see Milton. He chimes in for Lydia and he says that Lydia has great character, even better than his own. And I'm like, are you saying that because you dumped your ex to come here, Milton?
Allegedly.
And he's also trying to put it out there that Lydia did the best that she could in the situation, but that he knows Uche. He knows the type of person that Uche is. And Milton says something that I touched on in my previous video as well, that Uche was constantly asking him about his relationship with Lydia. And Milton would shut it down, but Uche always pried. Milton says that him and Uche were never friends, and I said that in my last video too, and I found it really strange, and I felt like Uche really lacked self-awareness in that conversation with Milton at the barbecue to really say, don't let her break up our friendship. I'm like, bro, can't you tell that Milton don't really like you? Y'all are not friends. But Milton also says that Uche would volunteer unwarranted information about Lydia as well. But as we saw, Milton said that his bond with Lydia was so strong that he really could not care any less about anything that Uche had to say about her. And what Milton said was really nice. I was like, look, I might just have to stop calling him baby sir. I might just have to stop calling him baby sir. And everyone started commending Milton on his maturity. And what he said was that when he came into the pods, everyone was joking on him because he was 24. They was like, oh, you're not going to leave with nobody. And he kind of played up on that. I feel like he did that so that people would underestimate him. And it's funny because from what we can see, Milton is the most mature guy on this cast. But Milton claims that Lydia saw through that young boy act he was doing immediately. And I'm like, did she see through that immediately? I thought that she only circled back to you as a rebound after Izzy turned her down. But okay, Milton, if that's how you saw it, okay. But in an attempt to kind of clean up Lydia's mess, Milton says to Aaliyah that despite what happened between her and Lydia, Uche and Aaliyah still wouldn't have worked out. Though that may be true, Lydia still played a huge role in this entire situation. Lydia was still calculating as hell, and I don't think that that should be minimized. And then Nick and Vanessa chime in, and they're pretty much like, well, everything happens for a reason. You know, you two weren't supposed to be together. And I'm like, yeah, everything happens for a reason, but you can clearly see that this experience definitely hurt Aaliyah. She was hurt by it, right? And I feel like they were kind of covering for Lydia. Like I said before, they weren't asking her the tough questions, and they weren't holding her feet to the fire. And I think that had Aaliyah not asked that question that she asked about Lydia and Uche, I don't think that they would have asked anything about that situation. But Aaliyah does say that she's currently in an amazing relationship with this guy that she met on an R&B cruise, okay? She said that he treats her like a queen, period. They show everyone's last conversation with Uche, and they do bring up the scene where Lydia was having that argument with Uche, and Milton came over and he showed his phone to Lydia. And a lot of y'all picked up on that in the comments. Y'all did say that Milton was trying to show Lydia something. I didn't catch that, but y'all caught it, so good on y'all. And what it was pretty much their like safe emoji. So they had already decided that if things got too hot, if things got too spicy, they just show or text each other that emoji so that they would know like, okay, let's go. So Milton did do that, but clearly Lydia wanted to stay and have that conversation because remember, she dismissed Milton. That's probably why he got up and he's like, okay, goodbye. Like I tried to help your ass, but clearly you want to sit here and talk to Uche, so I'm gone, okay? okay? And then Aaliyah says something that some of us know because we've been keeping our ear to the streets, but she says that even after the pods and all of that, she still tried to date Uche. And that's why I really hope that Aaliyah has truly grown from this experience. And I really hope that the man that she's with does treat her like a queen and that she knows what that means. Because if she's comparing the current guy to Uche, the current guy don't gotta do much because Uche was horrible. I know that was a year and a half ago for her, but it's like 2 days ago for us, right? Hearing that she dated him again made me sad, like Aaliyah. But she does say that the relationship didn't work for multiple reasons. She said that Uche was telling people that Aaliyah was not his type or what he was usually attracted to. Judging from his ex Lydia, who was this crazy stalker, but he just still couldn't stay away from, he kept forgiving, and will later learn who he was still reaching out to after this entire experience. I think it's safe to assume what his type is and what his type isn't. And I'm not surprised, but Uche does strike me as a calculating type who will pop out with a black girl for like a month or two to be like,
Hey, see?
see, that's not what I meant by she's not my type, but child, whatever. But we do learn that not many people like Uche, okay? This is coming from both the men and the women. Even Izzy said that Uche was talking trash about him in the pods. And Izzy's like, I don't even understand why. Like, I don't even know that guy like that. We don't even talk like that. And on top of that, yesterday, I checked out Jessie Woo's interview that she did with Marium. Now look, we're gonna have to retire the name Marium the Spy because Marium is a whole super intelligent boss. I know it was funny, it was cute, but
We can't do it no more, okay?
and she did clarify the reason why her initial date with Uche looked super weird. She said that that date happened over the course of multiple hours. She even says if you look at the conversation again, you'll see in one clip when she's speaking to Uche, her shoes are on and her feet are on the ground. And then when she's responding to Uche, her shoes are off and her feet are on the couch. And then when she's responding to him again, her feet are back on the ground. So she does say that they edited the footage in a way to make it look really choppy. They took her ums and her to make it look like she was being disingenuous or like she didn't know what she was talking about. And she also said that at the barbecue, when Uche was asking her all of these questions, do you have a business? Do you live here? Do you live there? He already knew the answers to all of these questions, which is why she got so angry because her and Uche had multiple lengthy dates together. She also says that it's funny that Uche is the one who called her bitter because she's the one who broke things off with him in the pods because of the way that he was speaking to her. And she had also heard from other women that they did not like Uche because of his tone. The same thing that we said. A lot of women were complaining about how Uche communicated. So it's funny that Uche called her bitter at the barbecue because Marium says that when she broke things off in the pods with Uche, she still had another connection with another man. I think his name was Connor. And Uche went to Connor and told him to watch out for Marium because Marium is looking for a sugar daddy. So Uche was running around these pods talking about Izzy, talking about Marium, talking about other people, talking about Lydia, talking about Aaliyah, just being messy as hell. Uche, what's wrong with you? And the funny thing is, Marium probably makes more money than all the guys on that show, quiet as it's kept. And I 100% believe that majority of the ladies in the pods had a bad experience with Uche because we saw how they were all looking at him crazy when he was talking about Lydia at the barbecue. So it's hilarious that Uche was calling Marium bitter when he's the one who turned around and tried to sabotage, well, he did sabotage her relationship in the pods after she dumped him. And another thing, 4 days ago on my community wall, well, 4 days ago at the time of this video, I don't know when I'm gonna post it, I posted on my community wall about an interview that I saw with Uche. But within the first 10 or so minutes of the interview, Uche said that he had reached out to Lydia multiple times. He said that he reached out to her at the end of filming, and he said that he reached out to her when the show aired because he cares so much about her and he's such a good guy, and he just wanted to let her know that he was there for her if she wanted to talk. Uche is clearly just as obsessed with Lydia as he claims that she is with him. Y'all can't tell me no different. After she stalked you and she ruined your chances with Aaliyah and she followed you on this show and she went through your drawers and she went through your emails or whatever, you're still reaching out to Lydia? And not only did Uche reach out to her, Uche reached out to Aaliyah and Milton in the weirdest way. This man messaged Milton and said, hey, I heard you got married. Want to talk about it? And see, y'all were laughing in my last video when I put that clip of Uche crashing Lydia and Milton's wedding, okay? But clearly that wasn't too far-fetched. He was probably right up the block. These are people who had conversations with Uche in real time. So it has nothing to do with the edit that we see. These are people who spent time with him personally and they don't like him, okay? But y'all Uche warriors who ain't never met him in person, y'all stay strong, okay? Keep fighting the good fight. Keep holding down your king, okay? Child, so they closed the book on Uche, and next we see Taylor and JP. Taylor came out looking like everything. Taylor came out looking like she wanted revenge, okay? And JP came out looking like JP. They did the whole flashback like they do with everybody. JP says that it was really hard for him to watch. And he says that the reason for everything is because he didn't know how nervous that he would be in front of cameras. Now, I can understand being nervous in front of a camera, right? Like I get nervous in front of a camera and it's just me in my little studio, right? So I can understand that. But then Taylor says, yeah, but what about when the cameras weren't around? You still didn't speak to me. And then JP switches from the cameras to, well, you didn't even want to be there anyway. And Taylor says, yes, I did. And I tried to communicate with you. You can see on camera that I was trying to speak to you and you gave me nothing. And baby, you could see in this entire scene, Taylor was disgusted with JP. And then JP says that hounding him was not the proper way to try to get him to communicate. And Taylor says the only reason why she was hounding him was because she was trying to find out the reason why he wasn't speaking to her. But Taylor says that she doesn't think that JP was attracted to her at all from the very beginning, and he belittled her. And JP apologizes and he says he's sorry. That's not what he wanted to do. That's not what he wanted to say. It just came out wrong. All he wanted to let her know was that she looks prettier without makeup. And as irritated and disgusted as Taylor clearly is with JP, she still gives him a little bit of grace. She tells him that she forgives him and she lets him know, like, we're all human. We all make mistakes. Just don't do that to any other girl. And what really irritated me about JP in this scene is that even though he apologized, he's still throwing shade at Taylor, because he still says when he first saw her and he saw her makeup, it was so shocking and off-putting. And he has that annoying ass grin on his face. And it's like, what's funny, right? And on top of that, that's not what you said when you first saw her at the reveal.
Oh my goodness. Hi.
How you doing?
Oh my God.
You're pretty. You're pretty.
So were you lying then or are you lying now? Because at the reveal, you said she looked really pretty. And then they asked JP, is Taylor the type of woman who you would approach like when you were out at the bar? And he says, well, when it comes to approaching women, like I don't even like do that. I have my friends do that and break the ice for me. Listen, obviously, JP is socially awkward when it comes to women. I'm not even going to say he's socially awkward with everyone because like I told you in my previous review, in that interview, Uche said that in the pods, you could not get JP to shut up. He was the life of the party, okay? So clearly, that issue mainly lies with women. And obviously, we don't know what the underlying issue is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it stems from his relationship with his mother. He witnessed his mom do some not so nice things to his sisters, right? I've also seen some other theories about JP floating around, okay? Whatever it is, JP already knew that he had communication issues with women. In the last episode, he said that his inability to communicate with women has pushed them away in the past, right? In this reunion, he just said that he can't even approach a woman in a bar. He has to have his friend do it. So if you knew that was the case, JP, one, why did you come on this show? And two, instead of telling Taylor that, instead of saying, hey, Taylor, I know we connected well in the pods, but just give me a little bit of extra time. I can be a little socially awkward when it comes to communicating with women. Why didn't you just say that as opposed to trying to make Taylor feel bad about herself? Instead of being honest with yourself and with her, you made her feel horrible. You spoke about her looks. You cursed at her. You stopped speaking to her. You made that entire experience horrible. And you put the blame on her and made her feel like something was wrong with her when you already knew that the issue lied within yourself. That's messed up, JP. And side note, what bar do you go to? Because I'm sure 97% of the women in that bar have makeup on. But like I said in my last video, I feel like JP's issue is way deeper than makeup. And I feel like had Taylor showed up to that reveal, had she been one of them girls who don't wear any makeup and she showed up to that reveal with no makeup and continued to not wear makeup for the entire time, I believe that JP would have found something else wrong with her. Even if it wasn't Taylor, if it was any other woman, I believe that JP would have still found something wrong with that girl, because the real problem is something that he needs to work out on his own. I will give JP props for showing up. At least he showed up and took the fire, okay? Unlike some people. So I'll give him props for that, but that's it. But Taylor says that she's currently seeing somebody. It's not official, but she's dating somebody, so good for her. And JP says that he's been dating a girl for about a year. I don't know if I believe that, but if it's true, I just have one thing to say to her.
Sorrows, prayers.
But he does say that he's able to communicate with her, so that's great. Okay, moving on. They play a little game with the dry erase board and they bring up Marium, okay? And I didn't like that. And I'm gonna tell you why I didn't like it. They asked the question, what does Marium do for work? And we already discussed that earlier, why that scene came off looking hella shady and why I was calling her Marium the spy, okay? But I didn't like that Marium had to catch a stray. You had JP on that stage. Y'all could have asked him about his attire, asked him where he was on January 6th. You had Lydia on that stage where there's a whole lot you could have joked on her about. You had Izzy on that stage, a whole lot you could have joked on him about. Why was Marium brought up? She wasn't even at the reunion. So with Love is Blind season 5 coming to an end, you know I have to say thank you all so much. Those of you who were here from the beginning to those of you who have recently joined, I appreciate each and every one of you for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Oh my goodness. What you all have done for this channel in such a short space of time is something that I could have never imagined. And I thank each and every one of you. I really do. And I said it in previous videos, but in case you didn't catch it, I hope that the growth of this channel has inspired you to start your channel or whatever else it is that you want to get started on. Use what you have and just do it. Don't doubt yourself. Just do it, okay? And lastly, y'all, I have a community post where I asked about different shows that you all would like to see me review. Definitely hit up that community post because I will be responding. And I think that I'll do a poll as well because I can't review everything, right? I can't review everything. So the decision will be made based on, of course, what I would like to watch, what I enjoy watching, and what the majority of you want to see. So if you want to see me review something, make sure that you comment it, or you could comment it below in this video as well. But definitely let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought about this reunion, about this season. I think this season was a dumpster fire, okay? But it made for some entertaining moments. I'm happy that it seems like everyone more or less pretty much got their happy ending. But definitely tell me all your thoughts below. Again, don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell so you're notified for my next upload, okay? Once again, thank you all so much, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye!
Roxy says we're gonna talk about it.